I really feel bad for millennials, man. People are hard on millennials. I thought people were hard on Generation X. I thought my generation people were hard on, but people are tough on millennials. Millennial is almost like a bad word. Like, to say that someone is a millennial is almost like a bad word today. Millennials are considered to be so lazy. They're considered to be narcissistic. They're considered to be all these things, these negative things. And it's very rare that people speak of millennials in a positive light. And we really treat millennials unfair in education. The biggest complaint about millennial educators is that they don't have the skills required to meet the needs of today's student. And the question I ask is, whose fault is that? Why don't they have the skills required to meet the needs of today's students? Whose job is it to teach them the skills that are necessary to meet today's student? It's the responsibility of the industry, particularly the organization that you go into, to teach you the skills you need. One of the two biggest issues people talk about that with millennial educators is they lack classroom management and they lack the ability to build relationships. The crazy part about that is the two things that people say are the most important things for being able to teach are the ability to build relationships and classroom management. So let me get this straight. The two things that are lacking for millennials are classroom management and the ability to build relationships. Why aren't we teaching them classroom management and the ability to build relationships? Now, just because you gave them a book doesn't mean they learn classroom management, or you gave them a couple suggestions doesn't mean they learn classroom management. Like, classroom management is something you learn over time. And most onboarding into most districts and most schools, they probably spend at the most 15 to 30 minutes on classroom management and building relationships with students. The rest is procedures and instruction. You have to get this instruction down. You have to understand how to deliver the instruction. Now, we continuously focus on the instruction, but we fail to teach them the two essential things that will allow them to deliver the instruction. We fail to teach them how to build relationships with students, and we fail to teach them classroom management. Now, you may say, well, they should know how to build relationships. Let's be honest. There's a lot of people that don't know how to build relationships. Like, building relationships is not something that everybody just is born knowing how to do. But there is a process for learning how to build relationships. Everybody can learn to do one of these, can learn to build relationships, and everybody can learn to manage their class. But what we continuously do is we sit there and we blame them for not knowing how to do that instead of supporting them and teaching them how to do it. Because of this, a lot of millennials are getting out of education. They get in, they get out. We're not teaching them the skills they need to be successful in the profession that they're in. And so they're going to other professions. If we don't prioritize teaching millennials and any other new educators the skills of classroom management and how to build relationships with students, we're going to continuously have this turnover of young educators. We're going to continuously have this turnover. Veteran teachers have seen all the trends and the ebbs and flows in education, but the millennial teachers have value too, because they are the closest to understanding what our students are going through. They are the only ones that have ever gone to school with cell phones. They are the only ones that actually, when they had a question about something in school, didn't have to go to the encyclopedia. They could Google it. That's something that none of us have the first-hand experience of. They went to school and had to deal with social media. They understand firsthand what cyberbullying can look like. We are dismissing their value when we continuously talk about them in a negative light instead of embracing them and teaching them the true skills they need in order to be successful. If you're a veteran teacher and you see a young millennial teacher, help them. But if you're a millennial teacher, also be open to getting help from a veteran teacher. Now, the challenge here is this: how do we start the conversation? Well, that conversation has to be intentional. That conversation has to be intentional, but it also has to be organic. And the way for that to happen is you need to circle together. The younger teachers need to be circling with the older teachers. It's circles not just for students. Circles are for facilitating conversation and building relationships amongst anybody, whether that's administrators and staff, and whether that's teacher to teacher. We all need to be able to have a conversation because all of us are the same in so many ways, but on the surface, we see our differences. And if we continue to allow our differences on the surface to keep us separated, all it's going to do is hurt the kids. Because that veteran teacher is not bestowing the knowledge that they have for the millennial teacher, and that millennial teacher is not bestowing the knowledge that they have, because they do have some knowledge, to the other people within the building.